So let's talk about how I underwrite land deals, right? How I think about figuring out what land is worth so we can make the right offer. For context, we underwrite thousands of properties a month in my own land business. I've done 928 deals, so I've done a lot of deals. I've looked at a lot of deals, and we've worked with almost 1,000 people inside of Leah. So I've also looked at a lot of their comps. Like I have been well versed in the world of comping. And the interesting thing is, like, I've talked about this for years, yet most people still don't understand how comping works. So let's unpack it. Now, one of the biggest assets you can have in your business without fail is the Land Insights comping tool. This is not a promotion for Land Insights, but to be honest, the volume that we do in our business would not be possible without the Land Insights comping tool. We actually ran a meta study, and our average time to comp a deal went from about 15 minutes to under 5 minutes with the release of this feature, which is pretty wild. And then also our accuracy improved. So it's been a huge boon to our business. So looking at it, what we need first and foremost is we need a simple decision making kind of matrix, if you will, right? If I look at 10 comps, how do I know what comps are most relevant to my property? Because I don't want to look at all 10 comps, right? We don't want to use averages. We don't want to use medians. Really, in comping, it's about less is more. It's about finding the right comps and then blocking out any of the other noise. Every month, I hear from land investors that say, Sumner, I got my first deal. They'll email me or they'll say, Sumner, I want funding on this deal. And I look at the math and I'm like, not only are you not going to make money on this property, you're actually buying it over the price point of what it's worth. And a lot of time, how that comes to be is they'll say, okay, I've got a 10 acre in Sumter County, Florida. So let me take an average of all the 10 acres in Sumter County, Florida. And that's, of course, going to bring in properties of all different ends of the spectrum, really bad 10 acres, really good 10 acres. And so they're going to get a wacky average. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that real estate's a hyper local game. For example, property might be way more valuable right over here for whatever reason. Like every single part of a zip code or part of a city or county, every pocket has its own cachet. Like you probably remember this from where you might have grown up. There's always a nicer part of town. And the thing is, when you're buying property sight unseen and you're marketing sight unseen, you might not always know that. And sometimes it literally changes from block to block. One street difference, totally different properties, totally different value. Um, and so, like, as much as possible, we've got to be finding comps that are playing to that local nature of real estate. And that's why inside of Leo, we teach a comping matrix called proximity, features, recency. Okay. Really, what that means is inside the Land Insights comping tool, we are going to put extra emphasis on comps that have proximity to our property. For example, a comp that's adjacent to our property is more valuable than a comp over here because it's playing to that local nature of how real estate actually works. So you can see here we've got 3 listed properties, all within a stone's throw away from our subject property here. So those are really relevant to me. I really care about those, and I'm going to spend extra time and extra attention on those than comps that are not local. Okay, so I would rather have an adjacent property that maybe doesn't meet all of the features or all of the recency criteria, which we'll talk about. But that's more relevant to me than anything else. The next thing that we want to think about is features. So when we look at our subject property, we always have to determine what's the nature of our property, right? So I look at this here. It's a 10 acre. We've got road frontage butting up to the western side here. It's partially cleared and pastoral with some wooded sections. Small little wetland, small little creek running through it. This does kind of run parallel to our frontage, so I don't love that, but it looks like it's pretty small, so I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I don't know the utility situation out here right off the rip. You can go through all of the due diligence overlays and land insights and get a ton of intel. I won't go through all of these now, but you need to get a snapshot of your property, because when I say features, what I mean is we want to find other 10 acres or close to 10 acres that overlap in features, right? If I have a partially pastoral and partially wooded property, and I'm actually comparing it to something like this that's densely wooded, it's different. It really is different. Or if I have this and I'm comparing it to a 10 acre that's used to grow hay on it, or it's a 10 acre with tillable land, or it's a 10 acre with a pond on it, those are different features that really do mean different things in every market. Sometimes they're massive value adds, sometimes they add no value, sometimes they actually hurt value. So it is, again, relevant to the market that you're working in. But as much as possible, we want to find feature overlap, right? So if you look at this active listing here, visually it's pretty similar, okay? What do you see as the difference, though? There is one clear difference, and that clear difference is this has easement access. So you can see it's got this long easement. This is not a public county road leading to our property here, where our lot's got frontage. It's going to be a more valuable property because of it. Now, could I look at this comp? For sure. Am I going to take it at face value? I mean, I might need to consider the fact that this has got a pretty long easement section on it. In fact, if we put a ruler down here, we've got 2,000 feet of easement to get to your property. Easements bring all sorts of complexity. That's not going to be a county maintained road, so we don't know the condition of that road. Just not as desirable, obviously, right? Now, this is actively listed, so this is a recently listed property, so it hasn't sold yet. So just as an FYI, everything marked in blue is recently listed. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, the last point that we're going to weight off of is going to be looking at recency. So real estate markets change over time. So as much as possible, I want to find a comp that's just sold because it's a snapshot. It's a window in time to what's happening in the market right now, opposed to something 2 years ago. Now, will I go back 2 years? Yeah, sure. If that's what's required, right? If, for example, I can't find any properties that are recent but have good proximity and good feature overlap, I will have to go back in time because this is ranked in order of importance, right? Recency, no, sorry, proximity is most important. So I'll give up some recency to find proximity. Then features is second most important. I'll give up some recency to find overlap in features, so on and so forth. You get the idea here, right? So this comp is 2 years old. It took a long time to sell, 589 days. Sold at $20,000 an acre. Now, looking at this property, it's relatively similar. This looks like it does have public road access, although it doesn't look like great road access, but I believe it does have public road access. It's partially pastoral, partially wooded, not as pastoral as ours, but you get the idea. And it also has this wetlands creek section running through it. So it's actually very similar to our property. So would I put extra emphasis on this over some of the more recent ones? For sure, because it lines up in proximity and it lines up in features. What a lot of folks are doing is they're going to be looking over here and they're going to say, hey, look at this 13 acre that sold for 26 grand, Sumner. I could get the same, right? No, probably not. This is a different area, so that's important. But most importantly, above that, different features, totally different features. It's got a small, that's actually might have come after. That structure might not have been there, but this is clearly a different property, much more manicured, much more pastoral. We naturally, as land investors and as humans, have a bias towards the best case scenario, right? So what does the typical land investor do? Well, they look at this and they say, I'm probably going to get the same. But what you don't realize is you're actually gravitating towards the best case scenario. You want to be objective and borderline pessimistic with your underwriting, and you need a decision making criteria to figure out what comps to pay attention to and which comps to ignore, right? If this level of detail has been beneficial to you, this is the tip of a spear of what we cover inside of Leah. And Leah is really a 4-month accelerator to have you build a consistent, profitable land investing business based off of the mid-market land flipping system. And that's the system that I run in my business. It's a system that we teach inside of Leah 2.0. Every single piece of the business, much like what we covered here with comping, has been codified into a system. We don't teach theory, right? We teach you a plug-and-play step-by-step system. And it really is the only approach that I'm seeing right now that's adjusted to working in this current market environment. You see most programs, coaches, communities, they're teaching approaches that were pre-COVID, that were back in the day 1.0 land flipping strategies that just don't work anymore. And so we talk about land investing 2.0 is this new era that we're in. And the mid-market land flipping is the system to make that work, right? So if you guys want to get a 90-day game plan and an audit on where you're at, whether you're just getting started or you've already done a couple of deals, go to landinvestor.co/YouTube. We'll take you through a 90-day audit. It's free. We'll audit where you're at, help build out a game plan in terms of getting to where you want to go in the business. So anyways, guys, hope this was valuable. The link is in the description. We'll see you in the next one.